Three, two, one. Hey, it's Wild Josh from Geek-Cetera, and I'm joined by Chase, Ezra, and Luke. And we just finished watching Loki, the new Loki trailer for the Disney Plus series that's coming out in a couple months. Now we're going to talk about it. Let's get geeky.
I'm confused.
What are you confused about?
Everything. It seems like a whole bunch of crazy stuff just happened on my screen, and I'm not sure what any of it means.
Well, I mean, it was more like a teaser almost, because like
It was.
yeah, than an actual full-blown trailer. But I got some pretty cool stuff out of it.
Care to enlighten us?
Yeah.
Sure, if you guys want. I did a little research, so that's why. So you know how Owen Wilson's character, he talks about the TVA, and then that's written on Loki's lapel. The TVA is the Time Variance Authority. It's like a Marvel thing. And their agent, their main agent, his name is Justice Peace. So I'm curious if Justice Peace is Owen Wilson's character. We're not getting anything from IMDb. I checked, and there's like no information on the characters. All you know is that Tom Hiddleston is Loki. So I'm thinking that he probably is Justice Peace, or Justice Peace will at least be in there somewhere. But the time variance basically goes around and fixes instances of broken timeline.
Okay, good, because now that I know this, there was a scene in there that I don't know if this is just me being hopeful. Did it not look like... I can't think of the name of the planet. Where the Soul Stone is.
Oh.
And Black Widow sitting at the bottom of the pit.
So there was people theorizing that he could go back and fix things like that. Like Black Widow could all of a sudden come back because they could do stuff with timeline.
Yeah, it looked like
that would actually they would be involved with ensuring that the stones end up in the right place after they borrowed them in the Avenger in the latest movies. So, I mean, that would guarantee that whatever efforts that they made to return them, which we don't actually see in the movies, were successful because of them. And that's probably why they snatched up Loki. That's the impression that I got from the trailer, because you got that scene where Loki snatches the cube and disappears. And
I love that.
I love that it snagged him.
I love that it was like the beginning of the little trailer thing was the scene right from
Endgame, yeah.
Was Endgame. And then it just like followed it right along, like where he went.
Sorry, Vormir. That's the name. Just it's there now. Sorry, I totally interrupted your thought just for that. I'm so sorry.
Away from saying it.
Okay. One of the things I really thought was cool about this, and I don't know if anyone else caught it, but at the very end of the trailer, he's on a plane and he's got like his hair all slicked back and he's wearing a suit. And then he puts his sunglasses on and he jumps out of the plane.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you guys are history nerds, but I'm fairly confident that they are recreating the DB Cooper plane hijacking in that scene. And he's acting like he is DB Cooper, because that is the look of the guy that they never caught, because it's like the only hijacking in the United States or plane in the world, plane hijacking that was never solved. So I'm thinking they're doing something with that. He had his hair slicked back just like the guy in the wanted pictures, the glasses, the suit. He jumps out of a plane with a duffel bag of money.
That's
and then
maybe.
That's a cool connection.
In midair, he gets sucked up to so that would be like why they never caught him, right? Because he never landed.
Yeah. So another thing, like when you started talking about airplanes, it made me think when he was like in the airport scene. I don't know if this is, again, me just wanting it to be, but it kind of looked like the airport runway from Civil War. So I wonder if this is going to be time variation, time something?
Time Variance Authority is what
Variance Authorities. If they're kind of traveling through time to, like, put things together, it's possible that he could be there in the background of all these events that we've already watched.
That's true. They could go back to a lot of things.
kind of like a Deep Space Nine revisits Trouble with Tribbles kind of situation where they're in the same episode technically, but they're doing stuff behind the scenes to make sure that things don't be broken.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so when I first watched the trailer, I was kind of lost, like you guys seemed. But then when I started doing some reading and like looking at some theories and thoughts and stuff, I was like, okay, that's really cool.
So we're thinking that Loki's working for the TVA then?
I'm
enslaved by.
Yeah, I would say forcibly working.
And he had like a shock collar around him or something.
Yeah. Unless they're saying, hey, you help us and we're going to do something for you. And there's some kind of like pro quo going on.
Right, because I don't think Loki would just like willingly work for them.
Right.
Without some sort of incentive like that.
So I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
And I was happy with the trailer. I thought we were going to get like nothing. And they gave us a little more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
So.
It was what, like 2.5 minutes or something?
Yeah, 2 minutes, clips. 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Although the first, I don't know how many seconds of it are stuff we already knew.
I kind of like that it was stuff that we already knew, though. Just because of, like, continuity sakes, like, knowing where Loki went. Now we kind of know, like, right where this picks up, where this show picks up, that he's kind of with these people now. It's not like he disappeared on his own, is off in never discovered areas doing stuff. I don't know.
Floating down the temporal time stream.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they're going to do episode length for the Marvel shows, because we know with Star Wars it's been short, long, like there's no really rhyme or reason.
I think that's better because they're not going to try to pad out an episode with boring crap just to make it work. They're gonna write those up. If they're gonna do the same thing, if they're writing the episodes to fit the situation, they'll have much better pacing as long as they have good writers to do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's kind of allowed them to do that is, you know, when you watched Clone Wars, all of the episodes were like 20 minutes long because it was televised, and they bought a 30-minute time slot, and you have to save 10 of that for ads. Whereas now when you're doing it purely on Disney Plus, they don't need advertisers, so they can kind of do whatever episode length they want because they don't have to buy that slot on TV.
I'm curious when Marvel went in and they did the series that was like Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and all that, and that was on Hulu, I believe. Whether they had set
was
time
that
lengths.
Netflix?
Oh, it was Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix. You're right. It was Netflix.
Yeah.
Because it was before Disney even owned Hulu. I wonder if they had, like, was it specific lengths or was it kind of...
I think it wasn't Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was all like the same length.
But that was on television.
That was on television. He's
not this last season, was it?
I think it was.
Oh.
No, the last season was on television, yeah.
Okay.
They ran that whole thing.
I'm looking at, right now on Netflix, one of my favorite shows, Lost in Space, that they've done recently. And the times are varying between like 65 to 53 minutes.
Okay, so
it looks like they probably Netflix is asking them to aim for a certain time frame, but they're not nailing them down to it.
Daredevil is from like 40 to 57, 60.
Okay, so it's the same thing. There's not like a specific...
Like an hour long,
it's got to
be.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of their content is like that. I think that might be like a Netflix requirement that they want them to be within an hour or just under an hour, just so people feel like they're doing.
Like I like the no format. You know what I mean? Like, okay, yeah, we're sad when we get like a 30-minute Mandalorian video, but like they don't have any requirements. There's just tell a story, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the goal.
I don't need something. I just want it longer. I just wanted to know it's more than 30 minutes.
And I agree.
As possible.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to know that if there was stuff in there, like, you know, with regular television shows, if they wanted to tell more, they couldn't because there's a time thing. So I'm happy to know that, like, we're not getting, like, cuts of content that, like, would have been integral. Or, like, and I don't know that there's any instance of that I can, like, point to and say, like, oh, you know, we missed out on this particular thing. But, like, if they wanted to tell a longer story this week, that's what they're going to do. If they want to tell a shorter one, like, you know, I like that. I think it's good. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I wonder what aspect ratio it's going to be in.
Only you would wonder that.
I like the Mando's in 21:9, like a movie aspect ratio, which I think is better. I think the all TV should be that way.
Yeah, I would hope they would. I mean, I bet you they do.
I would expect it. It's just because Letterbox is such a so effective method for framing a story. You get a lot more detail across the screen.
I agree, and I honestly
4K,
think
you can afford it.
Yeah, you can afford to have black bars, but like honestly, I feel like if more TV goes this route, we shouldn't be seeing 16:9 TVs anymore. It should all be 21:9.
Are you vying for more ultra wide displays?
I am 100% more vying for ultra wide displays. They are the way of the future. Like
You're trying to make me have to buy a new TV.
If you can find an ultra wide monitor that has the same vertical height as my 4K, I might buy into it. But
yeah.
All right, we're going somewhere that's not Marvel.
Sorry.
That's okay. But does anyone have anything else for Loki that they want to talk about?
No, I think the only thing that I want to touch on is if you guys thought that scene where it was kind of like darker and orangey purple, if you thought that could be Black Widow on Vormir.
To be honest, I didn't catch. I think that was mixed in with a bunch of quick scenes.
Yeah, it was mixed in with a bunch of quick scenes. All you see is her back, and so you see like the cut of her hair, and it's kind of like a dark purpley background that she's against.
I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was, and it was them bringing her back. But I don't know how. I might have mixed feelings about that because I don't know.
I agree.
I shouldn't have mixed feelings about that because I love that they brought someone back.
So I'm looking at that. I have it paused on my screen. And there's structures here.
Okay.
There's like pipes,
So
draining pipes, and there's 2 lights on the far cliff face.
Okay. So probably not then. Yeah. Just my overactive imagination.
But just because that might not be that, I wouldn't be surprised if they still did something with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if that wasn't the scene that we're thinking it is, I wouldn't be surprised if they went there with this series.
So, in the same sequence, like it's not the exact same frame with that girl, whoever it is. But right before it, there's a frame of like what still looks to be like the same scene, right? The same planet because it's orangey and purplish atmosphere, right? And behind it is like a massive planet that's been like fractured into many pieces. And I'm trying to see if we can find something from Vormir that looks like that, but I'm not seeing it.
No.
I think
what we're viewing here is actually apocalypse timeline kind of stuff. And this might be why Loki was snatched up. Maybe it was because when he stole the cube, at that point, it would have caused world-ending devastation, and that's why they stopped him. Maybe? Or alternatively, it might be one of the reasons why. It might be that, just theorizing here, spitballing, that whatever he did when he grabbed that cube and disappeared led to this, and they snatched him up and gave him the opportunity to fix it.
Oh, maybe.
And they're saying, what you just did screwed up so much. This is your opportunity to fix it. We're not letting you off until you do. And then he fixes it and then escapes by the end of the movie. That would be my theory as to the broad strokes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see if what happens in this series reconnects Loki at the end with a timeline where he can be in the new Thor that's coming out.
And I'm also curious as to, does this is this a series that goes on for more than one season, or is this like a one and done, or is this going to get several seasons? Because like when Mandalorian was first announced, it was only going to be one season, but then it was overwhelmingly positive reviews, and so they're like, okay, yeah, no, this needs more seasons. So do you think it could be the same thing? They're like, we have a story, we're going to tell it over the course of a season. If this is good, we'll change it and kind of keep going? Or do you think Loki gets a one and done kind of thing?
I mean, that's the thing about time travel type stuff like this is it's kind of like you're reserving the infinity of the universe for whatever you want, and they could have 20 seasons worth of content, and then they just wrap it up by going back to where he would have been left off, and he just did all this stuff in the interim, and because he was doing time travel stuff, standard Star Trek lazy writing, right? So you can stuff anything you want into this 2-second window because they popped off, saved the world 20 million times, and then came back to the exact same time. Or I guess it's not even Star Trek. That's like Doctor Who kind of writing. That whole oh yeah, we'll be back and it'll only be tomorrow. And then when they come back, it's 5 months later.
I kind of think it depends, Chase, as to where it ends. If it ends with connecting him back into something that he's in, that's a movie, like the Thor movie or something like that, or the Strange movie with the multiple universes, then I'd say it's a one and done. But then they could always bring it back, but it's on a completely different story with Loki somewhere else doing something. So I guess it depends. I would be surprised, though, if it was more than just a one-off. I would be surprised.
Random offhand question, semi-related to what we're talking about here, from someone who's more or less ignorant about the Marvel Universe. In everything that happens during the big purple guy, why can't I think of his name? Thanos.
Grimace.
Loki dies. Was that a legitimate death, or did they bring him back at some point? Because I don't recall them doing that.
From what I understand, I don't think he comes back from being killed by Thanos, but this Loki that we're seeing is from earlier. Remember when they, at the beginning of the trailer where he steals the Tesseract and zooms off to space? That's the Loki we're seeing.
Because that scene where he's getting let off in handcuffs happened in Infinity War or Endgame?
No,
Endgame. But it was showing a scene that was supposed to have taken place during the first Avengers.
Yeah.
Right. So that would have been before he actually got killed by Thanos.
Yeah. So he must go off, and then after this whole show, meet back up with Thor, and then get killed. Right? I mean, that's what we would be led to believe.
It's what we talked about. So we did have, if you're curious about time travel and stuff, we do have a live stream that we did a few weeks ago. Go check that out. But we're in a multiverse timeline here, Ez. So time isn't linear. So Loki is simultaneously dead and alive because he created a new, this was one timeline and it splits off. So now this timeline keeps going, and this timeline is now a different area.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's Schrodinger's Loki.
Yeah, he's dead and alive.
Yeah. So I just made sure, and I want the girl we're seeing in the Vormir-looking place has a sword. So I don't think that's Black Widow.
She could get a sword.
Could be Lady Sif.
But she didn't have a sword.
No, she looked
when
blonde.
She fell.
Oh.
She does.
This could
blonde.
be elsewhere on Vormir, because where she fell on Vormir. This way we should be wrapping up the episode, but she fell off a cliff. Doesn't mean there's not civilization on Vormir that she could be at now. Trying to get home. I don't know.
But
anyway,
I think the entire point of the Soul Stone being where it was because it was supposed to be a desolate, the most desolate location. The only person on that planet was the guide.
Well,
who would have been what?
I literally watched, I had the end game sequence, and I was like, oh, maybe she stole Hawkeye's sword when she fell, but no, she didn't. So I don't think it's Black Widow.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll wrap this episode up. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you thought in the comments. And also, if you're a big Marvel fan, make sure to subscribe, because in a couple weeks, we're going to do a live stream on Marvel Phase 4. And we're going to talk more about Loki, WandaVision,
Falcon.
What's the other one? Falcon, all those, everything that's coming out in Phase 4. It's going to be probably a long live stream. So subscribe so you can, and hit the bell icon so you'll get the notification when that goes up. Thanks for watching. And if it's all the same to you, I'll have that drink now.
We're not doing Get Help.